Heisman contenders, March Madness Cinderellas, Olympic-level talent. The energy of college athletics is unmatched. And every week, we highlight the most incredible performances, the biggest upsets, and the breakout stars that will become the next generation of professional legends. If it's trending, if it's dominating the headlines, it is officially noteworthy. Get ready for your all-access pass to the collegiate sports world. Welcome to Noteworthy in the NCAA, brought to you by the Empty the Bench Network. Now, let's join your host, Will Charlton.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Noteworthy in the NCAA here on the Empty the Bench Network. Happy to have you join us on another Monday. My name's Will Charlton. I am your host. And before we get started into kind of a recap of what went down in the national championship game between UConn and Michigan, let's take care of all the social media stuff. So make sure to follow us across all social media platforms at ETB Network. That's on Twitter/X, Instagram, and TikTok. And then make sure to follow the show I'm a part of at FP5ETB for Forever Power 5. That's on Twitter, X, and Instagram, and then on TikTok at Forever Power 5, no caps or spaces. And make sure to head to youtube.com/ETB Network to stay up to date with all of our shows. We got some great content on the network. So if you want to watch any of our other shows you might have missed, make sure to check them out on youtube.com/ETB Network. You can follow me on Twitter at WillCharltonH13 and then on Instagram and TikTok at WillCharltonTV. So yeah, just unfortunately, I mean, man, what a college basketball season it was. I'm kind of bummed it's over. It was just so much fun to watch, so much fun to take it all in. And I'll tell you what, the rendition of One Shining Moment this year after Michigan wins its first title since 1989, taking down UConn 69-63, that rendition of One Shining Moment was one of the best I think there's ever been. And I always say that One Shining Moment is the greatest but worst 3 minutes in sports each year, just because it encapsulates everything that happens in March Madness in a 1 3-minute video. And it's seriously one of the greatest things of all time. Like the song is just incredible. Just everything about One Shining Moment is just so great. But what makes it suck is that, college basketball is over now until November. So yeah, that's why I call it the greatest but worst 3 minutes in sports each year. But man, they killed it this year. They killed One Shining Moment. That was a beautiful edition of it. One of the best I think there's ever been. I'm a little biased because there was a lot of Illinois in it. It was great to see so much Illini representation in One Shining Moment this year. I'm not used to that. Used to like a few clips here and there, but still being able to watch that and be like, yeah, Illinois sure did make the Final Four. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about the Michigan Wolverines winning their first national championship since 1989 when they had Steve Fisher as their head coach. And, Michigan, even though they struggled from the field, it was, seriously, like, I'll tell you this, like, it was pretty damn impressive to see Michigan only shoot 2 of 15 from 3 and still find a way to win the game. That's just how good they've been. That is just how good Michigan has been. I mean, when you look at the game against Arizona, Michigan shot like 45% from 3. They made 14 of them, I think, 12 to 14, something in that range. I can't remember off the top of my head what the number was exactly. But Michigan only followed it up with 2 in this game. Yaxel Lendeborg really didn't even have that good of a game. I mean, he had 13 points on 4-13 shooting. He was 0 of 5 from the perimeter. And 5 of his 13 points came from the charity stripe. So it was the Elliot Cadeau show. I mean, Elliot Cadeau was 5'11", then he hit a huge three in the second half that made an 11-point game with about 12 minutes to go, I believe it was. And from there, it's like, ooh, that's a big shot, because Michigan just went up 11 points at that point, and that was kind of the moment where you realize that, like, it felt like Michigan was trending in the direction to have the game won. But yeah, it was really just, this game was kind of a slugfest in a sense, because Michigan was only up 4 at halftime. And UConn wasn't nearly as good from three as they were against Illinois in the Final Four. UConn was 9 of 33 from the perimeter. But I think one big difference was the free throw discrepancy. Michigan was 25 of 28, while UConn was 12 of 16. Michigan put up 28 free throws. But here's the thing. UConn as a team had one of the highest foul rates in the country. So it's not shocking that Michigan kind of tried to take advantage of that and get to the foul line. And it's also kind of crazy to look at this, but UConn won the rebounding battle. UConn had 10 more offensive rebounds than Michigan did. UConn had 10 more offensive rebounds than big size Michigan did. Like that's kind of crazy to say. UConn won the rebounding battle 43-36. So how did Michigan win this game? I mean, when you look at the stats, if you put the stats kind of like right next to each other, the only thing that would really stand out is like, oh, this team shot 13 more free throws, 12 more free throws. But the other team got up more threes. Well, I guess the overall field goal percentage is much different too. Michigan was 21 of 55, while UConn was 21 of 68. But both teams made 21 field goals, with 9 of those being threes for UConn. So that's kind of crazy to think that UConn only made 12 twos in the game. But yeah, this Michigan defense has been something else. I mean, like only allowing Arizona to the 73 points, and then holding Tennessee to 62, holding a firepower Alabama team to 77. And then you look at like the Howard and St. Louis games. Like, how did these teams score over 70 on them? How did Howard put up 80? How did St. Louis get to 72? Like, I don't know. But Michigan has been the highest rated team on KenPom for a while. They were higher rated than Arizona going into the Arizona game. And Michigan just proved that they were the best team in the country. They proved it. And the Wolverines, you know, it's been a really impressive season for Michigan. Like they cruised their way through the tournament up until the UConn game, because UConn actually covered the spread. So shout out to Dan Hurley. Good coaches win, great coaches cover. Dan Hurley is just a master of covering the spread for some reason. Yeah, the spread hit for UConn by the hook. So 6.5 point spread. UConn loses by 6. I picked UConn to cover because I thought it was going to be I thought UConn wasn't going to go out in March Madness, and especially in this late of a stage without trying to punch back, and they certainly did. I mean, here's the thing: this game had potential to get into a one-possession game late. So I believe it was Nimari Burnett for Michigan who had a couple free throws. No, it was not Burnett. It was Roddy Gale. So Roddy Gale had 2 free throws late to, I believe it would have then made it a 6 or 7 point game. He missed both. And this is late. This is late in the game. And then guess who gets a great look from 3 to make it a one-possession game? The senior, the veteran, the man who's been there. He hit a huge shot against Duke to make it a 1-point game late. It was, of course, Iron Man Alex Caravan. And he missed it. Like that shot late is where Caravan comes in the clutch. Caravan makes those shots in his sleep. when the time matters most. And he missed it. That was shocking. Like when I saw those two missed free throws, I was like, no way UConn pulls off a comeback again. No shot. No way. And then Caravan missed that three. I was like, oh, that's usually the one he hits. And then Michigan ends up making it the 6-point game. UConn can't do anything with it. And the clock runs out. Michigan just gets it in and tosses it down court. Caravan catches it, and then the time runs out. So Michigan here, 2026 national champion, ending a 26-year Big Ten title drought. The Big Ten is ruling college sports right now. Michigan breaks the title drought to win the men's. UCLA annihilates South Carolina in the women's tournament. We were talking about that last week on the live show on Sunday, right when the game was happening, when UCLA was just cruising past South Carolina. We were breaking that game down a little bit while it was happening. And obviously, the Big Ten's won the last 3 football championships. And just a wild, kind of turn of events for the Big Ten since the NIL has come into a factor, because the Big Ten has schools that have some of the largest NIL collectives in the country. I mean, for instance, like look at Indiana football, right? Like before NIL existed, Indiana football was a laughing stock of not just the conference but in the country. Like Indiana football had nothing at all. Like I've talked about this over and over again for Power 5. I've talked about it on this podcast over and over again. When you saw Indiana on your football schedule, you were like, oh, we're okay. So that's a guaranteed win this year. That's how it was. I mean, that's seriously how it was when you played Indiana in football for the longest time. And then NIL comes into play. You get a phenomenal coach in Kurt Cignetti. And now Indiana is a national powerhouse in football. And I don't see them going away. I don't know if they'll be a national title winner again for this next season, but they're not going away. So Michigan won it 3 years ago. Ohio State won it 2 years ago. Indiana won it this past year. So that's 3 straight football championships. And there's no reason why the Big Ten can't win a 4th in a row next year. Now the Big Ten is back to running college basketball because you had the 2 Final Four teams. You had the 6 Sweet 16 teams. And I'm saying that right. Yep. Yeah. You had the 6 Sweet 16 teams. You had the 4 Elite 8, or the 5 of the teams made it to the Elite 8. The only team who didn't make it past you had the 4 Elite 8 teams, and because Michigan State lost to UConn in the Sweet 16. Then one of Iowa or Nebraska had to lose that game of the Sweet 16. Obviously, Iowa ended up winning it, and then Illinois beats Iowa to get to the Final Four. Michigan destroys Tennessee to get to the Final Four. And, it was possible to have an all Big Ten title if, Illinois could see a ball go through the hoop against UConn. It just didn't happen. Which is just so insane to me because Illinois got so many good looks in that game. I mean, just every single good look just didn't go in the hoop. It was crazy. It was insane. But the Big Ten is running college sports right now. So and then when you look at like the Big Ten for next year, Michigan, Illinois, and Michigan State should be 3 teams that are going to be kind of like really, really in the mix once again. I mean, Illinois, if they can retain everyone and then get like a John Blackwell in the transfer portal, that's going to be a dangerous team. Could easily be a preseason number 1 team with like retaining Merkovich, retaining Stojakovic, getting both Ivasic brothers back, bringing in Quentin Coleman, who's the 4-star recruit, who's been labeled kind of as the next Keaton Wagler. Illinois can certainly be a team that is right back up there to be a Big Ten title contender, if not a national title contender. Michigan, they're not going to go anywhere. I mean, Dusty May is going to bring in guys. They just got JP Estrella and the transfer portal out of Tennessee. So if you can't beat them, join them, right? JP Estrella is a nice addition, especially since Perez Johnson's going to test the waters in the NBA draft. I think Adai Mara is going to do the same thing. So that's going to be a nice big man addition for Michigan. They're also a favorite to land Flory Badunga right now out of Kansas in the transfer portal. So that's going to be interesting to keep an eye on. We'll get into more transfer portal stuff later, but obviously for Michigan State, it's Tom Izzo. I mean, he'll have a damn good squad. It's the way it always goes. So, but expect the top of the Big Ten to be relatively similar as it was this year to next year. So let's kind of just recap the whole season for a couple minutes here. Just kind of go over really like this basketball season was phenomenal. It was so incredible. Just a great year for the sport. Obviously in last year's tournament, there were 4 1 seeds that made the Final Four, and that was not the case this year. I mean, you had a 2 versus a 3 on one side, and then the 2 heavyweights, the 1 versus 1 on the other side. It's not shocking Michigan and Arizona got there. Like that was kind of expected. Duke, they had a really tough path to get there. I mean, even they were tested in their first game. They're down by double digits to Siena at halftime of the first round. They almost became the 3rd over 1 seed to lose to a 16 seed. If Siena had a bench, they might have been able to win that game. And then they get tested against St. John's. St. John's has a chance late. They have a chance to tie the game late. St. John's even had a lead in the second half late in the game. St. John's looking like they might win that game against Duke. Then, Duke is able to hold on, but then Braylon Mullins happens against the Blue Devils in the Elite Eight. Duke somehow finds a way to lose that game to UConn when all they had to do is just dribble at the ball. So I still cannot believe UConn won that game. I still cannot believe it. And then the South was just kind of the region of chaos. I mean, like VCU comes back from down 19 to beat North Carolina. That was a phenomenal upset. Obviously, that Nebraska-Vanderbilt game was insane with Tyler Tanner having the half-court heave to win the game that literally rattles in and out. I mean, that was like mind-boggling how that shot didn't go in. An Iowa-Nebraska Sweet 16 matchup in the men's tournament. Like, we're talking about 2 teams who Iowa hadn't been there since 1999. Nebraska had never been there. And the 2 rival schools somehow find a way to meet in the Sweet 16. You had 3 Big Ten teams in the South Regional in Houston. Houston is playing in Houston and gets ran out of the gym by Illinois. Illinois finds a way to get out of that bracket, beats Iowa in the Elite Eight, wins every game in that bracket by 10-plus points. South was wild. The South was a wild bracket. The really only big upset was VCU getting past North Carolina. St. Mary's losing to Texas A&M wasn't a huge upset. I think St. Mary's only favored by 1.5 points. But VCU was only 4.5 point underdogs, North Carolina or something like that. Obviously, the upset in the West of High Point over Wisconsin was something else. I mean, that was just insane to see Chase Johnson, that just lethal 3-point shooter, make his first 2-point basket of the season to win that game 83-82. That game was nuts. That game was insane. And High Point sure as hell gave Arkansas a run for their money in the next round. I mean, Darius Acuff just happened to take over. One team had and the other team didn't. But High Point, that was fun to see that team win a game in this tournament. They're the only 12 seed that made it out of the first round this year. And then how about the run for Texas? I mean, going to the Sweet 16 for the first 4, Texas just they had the game-winning shot against NC State in the first 4. They then go against BYU, who was kind of a sleeper pick to make the Sweet 16, if not the Elite 8. But Texas just took it to them. AJ DeBonsa had a monster game, but AJ DeBonsa was kind of a one-man wrecking crew, and it just wasn't enough. Texas found a way to win that game. They were up I believe double digits in the second half, and Texas found a way to hang on and get the win. And that was impressive by the Longhorns. That was real impressive. And then follow that up with the win against Gonzaga. Obviously, no Braden Huff for Gonzaga, which totally kind of bit them in the ass in that game. But Texas getting past the 3 seed Gonzaga, who definitely was overseeded. Let's not get that wrong here. Gonzaga was certainly an overseeded team when a team like St. John's is a 5 seed, severely underseeded. So yeah, Texas had a great run, then has a heartbreaker against Purdue. I mean, the game is tied with like 8 seconds left, and then Trey Kaufman-Renn hits a tip in to win the game with a second left. So Texas almost even upset Purdue in the next round, which would have been a phenomenal win for them. So we almost had an 11 seed make the Elite Eight if one tip in doesn't go in for Purdue. But Arizona just cruised through that West bracket. Arizona just cruised through it. And that's just kind of like the Big 12 this year was so strong, so top heavy, like Arizona, Houston, Kansas, Iowa State, just there are so many teams in that kind of upper echelon of the Big 12 that just, even though it's a wild conference, I mean, even BYU, for instance, they were solid all year too. That upper echelon of the Big 12 is just unreal. It is just nuts. And when you look at the Big 12 is probably the strongest conference in the regular season just because of, the representation that they had. I mean, even a team like Texas Tech, if Texas Tech has a healthy JT Toppin, they're higher than a 5 seed, and they probably go on a run in this tournament because JT Toppin was just playing out of his mind until he got hurt. It was really sad to see him get hurt. It was, because he was playing out of his mind for the time that he was healthy. He was averaging over 20 points a game, over 10 rebounds a game. JT Toppin was on track to be in the running for the Wooden Player of the Year. He was for sure. And just to see him go down that game against Arizona State was just like, man, that sucks. I mean, that is such a shame. That is such a shame. They still won a tournament game. They beat Akron, but they got ran out of the gym against Alabama in the next round. So, but yeah, the Big 12 had a really, really strong upper echelon of the conference this year. Shout out to Tennessee too, the run they went on. Tennessee was kind of a middle tier SEC team this year. They weren't really great in the conference. They get a 6 seed in the tournament. Then they beat America's darling Miami of Ohio in the first round. It's like, okay, well, there's kind of a taste of reality for Miami. But then Tennessee follows it up with a win against Virginia, who had a really, really solid year under Ryan Odom. Virginia kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, this team was kind of in the dumps a little bit when Bennett stepped down, and they revitalized. I mean, they had a great year. They had a great year. They get a 3 seed in the tournament, and Tennessee just kind of. Virginia had a chance late to tie the game, but it was an airball 3-pointer in the corner. And then the Vols roll into the Sweet 16, just run Iowa State out of the gym. I mean, watching that Iowa State-Tennessee game, I know we talked about this on the show here after the game happened, but watching that game was just so painful because Iowa State could not hit the right side of a barn from the free throw line. They were missing at least one of every 2 free throws. Every time they went to the line, it was at least it was one of 2 or worse. It was, and you had to rub your eyes, what is happening here? And here's the thing: Iowa State as a team shot 68% from the foul line this year. That's bad. That's bad. That's why I didn't really pick them. I mean, I took them to the Elite Eight in my bracket, but I'm not shocked that they were an early exit. I'm not shocked they lost in the Sweet 16 just because of their foul shooting. If they make a lot of their free throws, and they got to the foul line a lot, they did. But Tennessee wasn't worried. Tennessee wasn't worried at all because they knew Iowa State was a bad free throw shooting team, and it came back to bite them. So Tennessee, shout out to them for making a great run to the Elite Eight. Same with Iowa. That was a phenomenal run. I mean, the upset win over Florida with Alvaro Folgueras hitting the corner 3. That was still just mind-boggling to see Iowa win that game against Florida, especially when Florida was just such a popular pick to go back to the Final Four out of that South bracket. So yeah. And just what a season overall, though. What a season. I mean, just so much fun. whether it was Big Monday, Super Tuesday, whether it was any Wednesday night, Thursday night, Saturday, just college basketball reigned supreme this year. The ratings were through the roof. I think I saw that it was the highest ever watch March Madness to date, ratings wise, and the product is just fantastic right now. I mean, men's basketball is so great right now, and it was a season for the ages. It really was just such a great year. The conference tournaments were all phenomenal. Anytime you're watching a really good game on ESPN or Big Ten Network or Fox, whatever it was, just CBS, like it felt like it mattered. Like, that's why I love college basketball. Every game feels like it matters so much. And that's not really necessarily the case in the NBA. Like, sure, it does, especially like this time of year when the playoffs are about to start in the NBA. But like, if you're just watching like a typical NBA game in like December, like the game really doesn't matter all that much because there's still 81 more games on your schedule. College basketball, you're fighting to play in March. You're fighting to play in March. I'm not saying the NBA teams aren't fighting to play in April or May or June. I'm just saying that like every game matters. And there's not like, it's so different because like teams are definitely starting to kind of pick up more of an NBA model to their game, but sets are still run. They're still trying their asses off on defense. I mean, it's just NBA, it's so much isolation ball. It really is. It's so much isolation ball, not a whole lot of sets being run. It's so much more of like a pleasure to watch when you're watching college basketball rather than the NBA. It just is, in my opinion, because I don't really, I love the NBA playoffs, don't get me wrong, but like I won't sit on this couch right here and watch an NBA game over a college basketball game on a given Tuesday night. I just won't do it. If college basketball is on, I'm watching college basketball. I don't care what day of the week it is. I don't, because college basketball is my favorite sport. It's my favorite to follow. And I'm bummed it's over. But what a season. Just another phenomenal year of college basketball. So let's take a quick look at the final men's AP poll. I will share my screen here so you guys can see this. 1 second. Let's get this up here. So there you have it. There's the final men's AP poll. So naturally, the two teams who made the national championship are 1 and 2. UConn passes up Arizona. I don't know if I agree with that, to be honest. I don't know if I agree with that. I probably would have kept Arizona at 2 instead of UConn at 2. But I guess from that standpoint, I see it. Duke 4, Illinois 5. I mean, Illinois was ranked, I think, 13th in the final regular season AP poll. So big jump for the Illini. Obviously, the run of the Final Four helped. Jumping over Purdue at 6 and Houston at 7. Iowa State at 8, and then Florida. I mean, the 1 seed dropping all the way to 9. It's like, yeah, I can see it. And look at St. John's. I mean, look at St. John's, 10. It makes sense. Like St. John's was severely underseeded in this tournament. Severely underseeded. Then the Tennessee gets all the way up to 12 after the run they had. Iowa cracks the top 15. I don't, you know what's funny about Iowa right there at 15? They beat the team right ahead of them in the tournament at Nebraska. I get Nebraska the better record and stuff like that, but it's just funny to me that the AP poll had Nebraska ranked a spot ahead of Iowa. I don't get that. I don't get that at all. That's just funny to me, but. Yeah, even Texas cracks the rankings at 22 after the run they had. Miami got in there at 24. So that's the final men's AP poll for you. And there have been some way too early rankings that have come out for the 2026-27 season. So I will get those up. Where are they? I got to find them here. I know for a fact they're posted on here somewhere. Sorry, I got to find these here. Here it is. Here's at least the field of 68, what they posted. So, like I said, Michigan's going to be right back up there at number 1. And I mean, when you look at this kind of like as a whole, it makes sense. Like Michigan's not going anywhere. Duke's not going anywhere. UConn definitely isn't going to go anywhere as long as Dan Hurley's the coach here. Florida, I'm sure they'll be right back up there. Illinois, if they can retain everyone, Illinois can certainly be a preseason number 1 team or a preseason top 5 team. And then if you can bring in like a John Blackwell as well from the transfer portal, Arizona certainly should be up there. Alabama, I'm sure they'll be solid again. I can definitely kind of do it like this too as we're going over the top 10 here first. But then Michigan State, Virginia, Arkansas. And obviously this is kind of so hard to say because you don't really know what's going to happen with the transfer portal, who's going to stay, who's going to return, who's going to come to the school for sure yet. And then here's a look at the 11 through 25. Houston at 11. Vanderbilt 16, Purdue at 19 because they're losing Trey Kaufman-Renn, Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer. They're losing those 3 guys who have been there forever, so you're not really too sure what the makeup of that team is yet. North Carolina with a new head coach, Mike Malone, now the head coach of North Carolina. That's a crazy hire too, by the way. They gave him so much money for a guy who's an NBA coach. But with the modern style of college basketball, that could be a decent fit. It could be. I'll be very interested to see how Malone does there at North Carolina. He was definitely one of the better basketball coaches on the market right now. St. Louis in there at 21. I mean, they were a fun team to kind of keep track of this season. Nebraska 23 and then TCU 25. So those are a look at some of the way too early preseason rankings for the 26-27 season. And just a couple of quick things before we head out on the transfer portal lately. The latest is that Colin Chandler, the guard for Kentucky, is committed to BYU. On3 reported. And then here's a funny one. Speaking of Kentucky, so Denzel Aberdeen from Kentucky, who was originally at Florida, won a national championship with the Gators last year, is now transferring back to Florida. So he went from Florida to Kentucky, now back to Florida. Transfer portal is so funny. It's so funny. You can just, it's just the Wild West out there. It's so funny. And yeah, like the two top names in the transfer portal right now. Rob Wright from BYU is another top name in the transfer portal right now. But Flory Badunga, he's looking for up to $5 million to play for a school next year. And I think Michigan's going to be the front runner to get him. And then John Blackwell, he's kind of down to Duke in Illinois as we sit right here, right now. So his father, Glenn, played at Illinois. So I'm sure he's probably trying to get in his tail about that to go join him and wear a Fighting Illini jersey as well. But obviously, this is only going to keep heating up and heating up. So we'll have all the transfer portal news for you on this podcast coming up in the next few weeks. We'll have a little college baseball, college softball for you as the College World Series will be in June. And transfer portal is just getting started. Portal Madness. Portal Combat, they call it. So that's it. But yeah, that's going to do it for this edition of Noteworthy in the NCAA here on the Empty Bench Network. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Will Charlton. We'll catch you back here for another episode.